So for my progress presentation, I'll be showing you guys what I've been doing for the past like close to 2 years. I've been doing a podcast which is called uh, the Otaku Owen. Hang on. So
So,
I'm Mark. I'll throughout this presentation, I'll walk you through the process of ideation and steps on how I created my anime-based project, and I'll show you the work I've done in my podcast project, including the interviews I've conducted on various different anime businesses. So as you can see, the name of my podcast is called the Otaku Oven, right? So I centered the design of the presentation around cooking. You can see the what do you call it? The rolling pin on the back. It's kind of cool. So first, most importantly, I spent the first two lessons with Ashita planning and ideating different ways in which we could apply anime as a business slash project. So initially, I wanted to make like a third party, like a reselling online business where we resold anime figurines, merchandise and stuff. But like I didn't think it would work because the amount of capital we would need would be quite a lot, and I didn't think it'd be quite doable. So I thought, what if we do something like based on like around like social media, since stuff like TikTok, Instagram, all those like media, like podcast, especially, it's becoming more prevalent right now. It is some like it hit me like, what if I make a podcast? That would be really cool. And instead of just like talking about anime all the time, I wanted to do something more interesting. So what if I interviewed people from the anime business industry, like from different, like from retailers to like cosplayers, like actors basically, or artists and stuff, so people get to know more about the anime industry and the background behind it. So on the screenshot on the right, you can see the ideas I tried to come up with and other stuff. And so for the third and fourth classes, me and Ashita were trying to think of a name, an intro, an outro, and we also made some objectives that I had to complete, for time management purposes. So I thought the name Anime Addict, I thought it was quite catchy, right? But it turns out someone already took it. So yeah, good thing I noticed before we had to go ahead to use the word anime addict. So then we're thinking about it, right? So Otaku Oven, it's really catchy, a lot of O's, and it's based around cooking, which is kind of also like my hobby. So it has a personal feel to it. You can also see the other names we came up with, but uh, I think Otaku Oven was the most catchy out of all of them. And the word otaku, if you don't know what it means, it basically means you're a fan of anime. So I had to use it. It's kind of like symbolism of what my podcast represents. And we also made the intro, the outro, and yeah, for this specific part, I learned to be more creative. I also had to learn a lot of English skills, like correcting my grammar, making it more catchy, using uh mm, my punctuations properly. It's it was quite difficult. Plus, like I was not really experienced with this at the start. I also had the challenge. There was also a really big challenge of trying to phrase it in such a way that makes me look like sound more exciting, more encouraging, more charismatic. That's kind of an issue as well. So yeah, we went through it, and we also made our own email using GoDaddy, which was called we changed it to info@theotakuoven.com. So at least that's one thing we had to pay for, make a GoDaddy email, and yeah. Um, So Otaku Oven, right? Or oven cooking. I wanted to make the mascot or like the design of our podcast centered around cooking. So it's you can see a lot of designs here. Thankfully, with Canva, there's a lot of presets we could use that help to save time. But I also wanted to uh how do I say this? Use a mascot that looks more like a typical anime character, right? So if you look at the top left, this is the one we chose. But if you look at the bottom ones, they do not really like look like those anime characters. So it doesn't like fit the brand image or the style that we were going for. Yeah. And this one was probably one of my favorite ones. So we had to make the music, the intro music and the outro music, and we had to edit it a lot and mix it in with my voice. So like the introduction. So for the music, I actually made it myself. I can't show it to you right now, but if you want, I can show it to you guys later. It's really cool because I had experience producing music back then, so I made it. And then we used GarageBand to mix it in with with the intro and the outro of the podcast. But we had trouble because sometimes the voices and the music clash together. So I learned this thing called frequency isolating. So it's like you learn to cut out all the white noise or the background noise, using some kind of software. It's really interesting. And for our preparation, I for the podcast, of course, you need guests, right? So, I made a list of people that are like interesting, like they work in different industries in the anime. When they have like different kinds of businesses in the anime industry. I want to have like a variety, and I looked at a lot of uh, Instagram pages. I evaluated all of them. I thought, oh, okay, maybe this one is more interesting than the other person. Oh, who is more unique? I wanted to look for someone who's unique, that's different from other kinds of businesses, and also had a decent following, I guess. So I did a bit of research on them, then I contacted them like through Instagram. I directly messaged them, or I just emailed them if the email was posted on their bio. And I tried to make it sound a bit formal, but introduce myself a bit as well. And I also referred them to my email. So for class 13, I created first of all we made an Instagram account. It's called the Otaku Oven, same as my name basically. And we made our first post, which was basically just the introduction to what our podcast was and who I am in general. It's also to assure guests of our legitimacy and showcasing what we plan to do. So after setting up our Instagram and coming up with a list of people I wanted to contact, I sent a message to all the potential guests with some specific changes for each person. So like for example, if you look at the picture on the bottom, it said Billy Billy Singapore. They're like mm, they publish anime on their websites, and so for people to watch, and it's free as well. So that's one I want to talk about, like, oh, how do you get these stuff, and is it hard to post them online and everything? And then Annie Plus Cafe is a cafe based in Singapore, like centered around anime. So the food are like anime themed. I thought that was interesting because it's the first one ever in Singapore. And Coffee Mix is a music production label based on around anime, which I thought was really interesting. Oh. So yeah, I basically wanted to ask the most unique people possible so my viewers could learn more about the anime industry, all these unique selling points, ideas. So this is the first person that messaged me back. He's a photographer for anime cosplayers. So cosplayers are basically like I guess models that dress up in anime clothes. It's This guy's he does photography specifically for him, and he also does photography for other anime-based like media campaigns. So I thought he'd be interesting. So we were able to get in touch with like him and two other guests, and after messaging about 10 or 15 people, we finalized meetings with them for two episodes, like for two people. So one thing I want to talk to you guys about is like it's I learned throughout the project. I was kind of I it was kind of hard for me because I didn't know how to communicate in like a formal manner. I didn't want to sound too formal, but I didn't want to sound too casual at the same time. So Ishida and me, we talked about it, and I had to find the balance between it. And I had to introduce myself and make sure that the everyone from my first message, the person knows who I am, what I do, and feels like welcoming. They feel welcome by my presence. I need to sound more charismatic and everything. So I also for class 17 and 18, we made a like a draft or like a list of all the questions we wanted to ask for each podcast episode. Generally, this is the model I use, but I sent the draft to each person and I asked them if they weren't like comfortable with any questions or whether or not they would like to change it. So we just changed it based on this model right here. So yeah, and then class 19, I basically just finalized them. So for class 20 and 22, that's after we interviewed our first two guests. Uh, well, the first one was of course the photographer, and the second was an event organizer. I've never heard of an anime-based event organizer business, which I thought was pretty interesting. I really wanted to talk about it with. I mean, I really want to talk to him, especially. And I thought that our conversation was quite interesting and our viewers would definitely like him. Like I learned a lot of things from him especially. So that was quite cool. And the photographer as well. I learned a bit about the photography scene in Singapore, especially around anime. And we actually still keep in touch and he still gives me heads up about stuff. Yeah, it's good to have connections, especially like keep a good relationship with these people because they can help me get insider information, get me free tickets and stuff. That's kind of cool, of course. Oh, but there's one incident that happened. So for the event organizer, an incident happened where he was caught doing he committed sexual harassment on someone, which was really bad. So one thing I really was thankful for was because the photographer, right, we were so close. He told me about it before all the media published it online. So we were able to get rid of the episode before any of this happened. So, I realized the importance of keeping close relationships and keep talking to them even after the podcast ended. And I also was worried that the brand, like our brand image, our podcast brand image would be ruined because of it. So I'm really thankful. We also tried. Okay, so to edit our first episode, we tried using a lot of different platforms, right? Like GarageBand, Reaper, Logic Pro. But yeah, Logic Pro is the best one to use. I thought it was the easiest. I thought it was the most simple. And uh, yeah, because I had like background, I had prior experience to using what you call it's called a DAW, a digital audio workshop. I have experience using this kind of software before, so it definitely helped. And we posted them online on Class 24. So we used Anchor as the platform to upload the episodes after creating the account and completing all formalities. You can see here, this is what it looks like. You can find it on Spotify. It looks really cool. Currently, we have like 4 episodes. And actually, I looked at the analytics on based on this. We actually have like quite a few viewers from like across the globe, which is quite cool, you know. I'm happy. I'm kind of happy about that. And for class 25 to 26, we messaged other people as well, but some rejected us, you know. It was it's kind of sad, but to be honest, I understand maybe our following was not large enough. Maybe they didn't have the time, you know, and we should understand why they said no instead of like just simply just being sad about it, you know. We can further improve, maybe make our brand image more like more famous, I guess, or more strong, so people know who we are, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I definitely want to do a podcast with you." And so for class 27 and 28, we uploaded the second podcast, and our third podcast, we did an interview on Z 99.9 radio. They're a very popular radio thing in Indonesia. They have like a lot of followers, like 100,000 plus. I don't know how we managed to contact them, but it was a really good experience. You know, I was really impressed with the way they projected their voices and their how charismatic they sound. So I really wanted to like make my like model my voice similar to theirs, you know, be able to do that, be more outgoing, be more energetic, you know. Overall, it improves the overall quality of the podcast, and it makes our viewers more like interested in listening to it. And yeah, it was one of my favorite ones, the show. Uh, so we have uh more episodes lined up. I have another guest coming around I think maybe end of August or start of September, somewhere around that point. It's with a cause. So the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And in this case, if you can see in the background, I have a lot of anime things. You know I love them. That's partially why I wanted to do this. Because I remember in my first Ascend bullpen, I my project was about the anime industry and how we can make a business that can support all those overworked, underpaid employees and stuff, you know. So I just wanted to make the the anime brand just bigger all over the world, you know. I'm really passionate about that. I believe in this quote a lot, seriously. So the key things I learned was confidence, like projecting your voice, sounding more charismatic, obviously. And you know, you don't stutter when you talk, you don't sound like depressed. If you look at the first and the last episode I posted, you can see the difference in the way I project my voice. In the last one, I sounded more outgoing, more generally just more joyful, you know. I had feedback from some of my friends. They said that my voice, I sounded more professional in the end, you know. Kind of happy about that. And creativity, working on the brand, coming up with you know the presentation itself, making the music, everything, you know, making us stand out more compared to other people. You know what I noticed was our podcast. It actually compared to other anime podcasts, we had like themes, we had like intro music. Uh, yeah, we had a lot of stuff that made our podcast look like sound more reputable, more cool, you know, in general. And adaptability, like the the incident that happened with our second guest, I learned to deal with the situation, like you must delete. You gotta delete the post, address the situation. Time management also. So it was kind of some. I had during the one of the episodes, I had like it was during exam week, right? So I had to make like I had to manage my time perfectly so it didn't clash with my study and stuff like that. So yeah, that's another thing. It's really important. Like scheduling dates with guests, re reaching my goals in due time, and tech savviness, using a digital audio workshop, getting the right equipment. So actually, I I learned a bit about microphones because I wanted to improve the quality of my voice. So I bought a really nice microphone before this whole project even started. So yeah, it definitely helped. And it's now all my equipment is like close to studio quality, I guess, which is kind of cool. And social media, being able to handle a social media account, uh, yeah, perseverance, even when people reject you, even when they can't like do the podcast with you because of time difference or whatever, you still gotta keep going. There's like I learned that even if one guest like rejects you, there's still like a million others out there. You just gotta find them. Just keep trying. And socializing, it's very important to be outgoing, be to be like generally just more extroverted. It'll be easier to communicate with your guests. It'll be easier to explain more about yourself, talk to them and improve the overall conversations. And also keeping in touch with them, it helped me with the during the incident, as I said before. So that was really interesting. And yeah, thank you. And I'm open to questions.